What is the most powerful trait we have? You need power, speed. Let your imagination do the rest.
Undisputed, the Mexican Monster Pack out now.
Boxing King Media, Spencer Fearon in the house. What a perfect man to speak to after an epic undisputed heavyweight showdown right here at Wembley Stadium. Spencer, how are you? That's a mad handkerchief feature you got going off there.
Yeah, thank you very much, my friend. Yeah, good to see you, my bro. I see all the fantastic work you're doing, so, you know.
Fresh off, I feel like you're leaving boxing and getting more involved in like football agency type work.
Yeah, well, that's the stuff that I'm doing with my business partner, Liam, OYS Sports Management. We got a really good kid, Brad Young. He was formerly at TNS. He left TNS, he went to Alaroba, and it was transfer window, so we moved him from Alaroba, and now he's at Banias, which is in Abu Dhabi. So, and it was good money, so we had to go out to the training grounds last week to sign the deal, which I had to fly out to go and do. So I did that, and then I flew out there for Serbia for 1 day and came back. But really, really nice team, really hospitable, and let's see that Brad starts to bang in them goals.
Well, I hope the boxing world don't lose you fully to the football world, but
now people are praying for that. Go, get out of it. It is what it is, yeah. But, you know, like I said, I'm just grateful to do what I do, you know.
Well, I wish you all the best in that, and we're going to jump straight into it because everyone's clicked on this video to get your opinion on the big showdown last night. Before we talk about the fight, I want to just cover some of the fight week build-up stuff. Obviously, in the initial launch press conference, it was quite heated, and from both sides, and well, not both sides. Alexander, the whole issues about the low blow, him being called a cheat was raised, and then obviously this week none of that came about. But what we did see that it's been a big talking point, and I spoke to Alex Krasik a bit ago, Usyk's former promoter, and he confirmed it as well. Alexander Usyk has never ever predicted the exact outcome of a fight. He's always just said he's going to win, and that was something new to him as well. But for this particular fight, he said, I'm going to stop him. So I just want to ask your opinion on that. Do you think that was based on all the stuff he got from the team Dubois, or do you think that was just he was just feeling it?
No, let's be real. Sometimes when you get success, it can go to your head. And as the old saying is, don't let success go to your head and don't let failure get to your heart. And what we saw then was like literally, and don't get twisted, Don Charles has been my friend since I've been 12 years old, right? Don Charles was my senior at my first amateur club, right? But I think they got a little bit carried away with, and I get it to the extent because for years, people were not respecting Don Charles as a trainer. Then all of a sudden you're getting the adulation that you've been so craving for. And then sometimes people don't know how to handle it. Remember, in all of the drama or the back and forth, my back and forth was actually with Daniel Dubois' dad, who, regardless what I may think of him, right, what he's done for his son is still incredible. He's the only man in history that's got, like, his two children, siblings, that have become world champions. And they held world titles at the same time. That has never been done before for a brother and sister to hold world titles. He's the first man in history. This should be documented. But I'm saying this, in this business, you have to know to delegate, because if you don't delegate, we're going to see things like we saw yesterday where you get relegated. And that was a relegation what Alexander Usyk did, simply because Don Charles, when he was there going about, wow, what, you're a man of God, what kind of, this says thou shalt not cheat. How can you talk about a man's faith? Especially more so, I'm going to break it down for people to understand. You being African and being very spiritual and knowing of spiritual beliefs and all the rest of it, you were clutching at straws thinking, well, that's the only reason why we lost that, because he hit him with a shot. And if you do, and I'm going to be real, when it first happened, I said, no, that wasn't a low blow. If it's underneath it was on the line or the cup, then it's a low blow. It is, right? Because it shouldn't have touched the shorts. It's a low blow. Call it as it is. You came up second best. Regroup. Don't be worrying about that of the past, and try and devise a plan to come out successful. And obviously that did pee off Usyk. You could see it, because I remember when you sent me the video of the press conference and Usyk kind of stormed out. He was upset and he's saying, right, watch what I do with this guy. Watch what I do with him. And Usyk is a master. And that's what he had. So all these people will fall, oh, Daniel Dubois is going to do him. And he's so strong. No disrespect to Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua doesn't have the IQ of Alexander Usyk. Alexander Usyk is a man of high intelligence when it comes to boxing, right? And it's actually a pleasure to watch him fight, because there's certain times where he does these little jittery movement, even though he's a southpaw, but it's very reminiscent of Michael Spinks, but it's more polished than what Michael Spinks used to do. And that's the former light heavyweight world champion and former Ring Magazine heavyweight champ. That he's got that kind of herky jerkiness to him. It was an absolute pleasure to watch him last night.
Just want to touch on a couple of things that you said there. You're talking about the questioning him, all that kind of stuff. Are you basically saying there's an element of that's why he was fighting the way he fought Usyk? Because I've never seen him load up like that. He was loading up, and Alex Krasik, again, he was a good guy to get an insight from, because he signed him from day one, so he's seen all his career from ringside, and even he said, I've never seen him fight with that kind of bad intention.
Obviously he was peed, and you could see it. And I'm just going to be real, yeah. George Fox is a lovely youth, you know. That's Don Charles' son, right? He's a lovely, lovely kid, yeah. But like I said, of everything that's happened, like this, the hype and the people will get a bit carried away, and I think they got a bit carried away with everything, because that's not really your character. Your character is very subdued, very humble. But you get cameras on you now, and they think, well, we got to sell this and that. You're not fighting. You know, you're not fighting. And I get it. You're proud of what your dad's done, right? But you've had the opportunity to go do certain things because you was a pro fighter, but you didn't do it. Do you know what I mean? So when I'm seeing like it was wrong, and it was wrong on the question of Usyk. It was wrong when the son was even kind of questioning Usyk and stuff like that. And then when Usyk just turns, all right, well, how many fights have you had then, and what have you done? You know, I wouldn't go down that road. Me personally, I wouldn't go down that road. But I get it if you're trying to sell something, right? But you didn't have to sell it in that way, because it's not about you. It's not about your dad. It's about the fighter. And that's the thing where you got to know where to kind of step out there. Your job is not a promoter. If you was a promoter now, you're doing it. No, if that was Eddie Hearn talking that, I'd say yeah. If that was Frank Warren, I'd say yeah. But it's not your job. It's not your job.
Yeah, we're saying that, but let's say if Dan pulled it off yesterday, do you think that it'd be the other way around? People would be saying, great talk, great psychology, all that kind of stuff. Because like prior to this fight, Don Charles, he won British Trainer of the Year, and he guided Dan to an amazing 4-fight winning streak against, I think he was underdog in pretty much all them 4 fights. But the 2 losses they've had as a team have been a generational great.
The 2 losses have been against generational greats.
Great.
Yeah, but he's got 3 losses on his career.
No, but that wasn't with Don Charles, was it?
With Don Charles. But I'm saying to you, no. Well, how it goes is this, right? Don Charles has been suited to Daniel Dubois simply because the things that Don Charles has implemented inside of him, he's kept it very basic, right? But when you're dealing with an IQ'd person who makes boxing very cerebral, you have to have the intelligence to go up to that level of their cerebral essence. If you can't do that, then that's when you end up in trouble. And it would take a lot of guys, because we got to be real. Don Charles did not stamp the authority within the whole camp. And the reason why, and this is no fault, and I'm just talking as it is because you know me, right? Don Charles should have said, listen, I'm the trainer here, right? Mr. Dubois, you've done a fantastic job with your son, but I'm the trainer here. You need to stamp that authority. So if that authority is not stamped, every time...
What's making you think he hasn't got that authority?
He hasn't got... What do you mean? What makes you think? Because Daniel Dubois sat in his corner and too many voices. Everyone's trying to get their Teddy Atlas soundbiting, right? Everyone's trying to say... And Daniel Dubois' concentration is, I'm looking to my dad. Then I'm looking at Daniel Dubois' corner. I think there's about 25 people around there. That's ridiculous. There is no structure. There is no order. Now, you know what I mean? How can you give order if you have no order? There was no order there. You know what I mean? Even down from him leaving his house to come to the venue, like when Usyk's getting his hand wrapped. Nah, bro, where you live in comparison, why didn't you just stay in a hotel? Why don't you just stay in a hotel around here? Right? The trainer has to be a trainer. But like I'm saying to you, this is how it goes is this, and I get it. Trainers, majority of trainers have to eat shit to live, right? Because if they don't, they got to eat the shit because you're living off of the fire, right? But on certain times, you have to grab that authority to say, listen, I am the trainer. You can't be, you're talking to the fighter, the dad's putting his input in. I said this to you last year, right? When you got the writ to take down the video, right? When you're dealing with a fighter, you're meant to be dealing with a fighter. I've never once heard Daniel Dubois say anything complimentary about Don Charles. Then where's the respect? It's not there. And then you're bringing in this trainer, that trainer, this trainer. You got other guys you're bringing in as well, right? That's confusion.
But you know, you're saying all this, but is it easy to say that now that he's lost? Because don't forget, but they were winning and they look good winning fights. You know, they just knocked out Anthony Joshua. Because I don't want to, like, I got to put the other side in across because they're coming from a 4-fight winning streak, and now because he's lost, and we're saying, you know, blaming this and blaming that.
No. Because even when they were winning, and you know, on personal conversations that we've had, I said the same thing. It's only because we've got a camera now. I'm saying the same thing. I've not changed anything that I've said. Right? Because people think like I must have some this vendetta against them. No, I've said what I said about the father. I stand on what I say. I'm not turning around saying that he shouldn't be commended because I said, well, what he's accomplished with his children has been superb. But you are a bit of a Joe Jackson. That's what I'm saying. And it's a bit cultish in there. And the next thing, I'm just telling you how it is. We can see that within Daniel Dubois is kind of coming out of himself, yeah? I would suggest that Daniel Dubois reaches out to Giggs, the rapper, right? And sit down and talk to him because, and I'm speaking from a person that has been diagnosed with autism because everyone knows I'm autistic. I'm autistic, that's why I can do crazy things and talk about fight dates and and all that shit, right? I would say for him to go and sit down with somebody like Giggs, because Giggs has openly come out recently and said like he's got autism, his son's got autism, which we know about, right? And someone like that to kind of steer him in the right direction, because having autism is actually a superpower. But if you don't know that you are superhuman, you won't act as a superhuman.
Before asking the next question, let me just change my memory card. Right, we're back in business with the new memory card. This is what I was going to say to you, Spencer. You know, you were saying earlier about the arrival time at the venue, because I recorded Dan arriving. So I've got his arrival time at the venue as 8:16 p.m. he arrived. And I know Usyk was already wrapped up and he was shadowboxing at that time. And he's, obviously you could just see the video there. He's just walking in there with his team. And then he made his ring walk at 6 minutes past 10. So you're literally talking an hour and 50 minutes, if my maths is right. He was in the ring from entering the arena. So I don't know. Obviously, I'm not a fighter. So you tell me, you've fought before. You've been a fighter, promoter. You tell me.
Fighters as well. When Don Charles had Derek Chisora fighting Tyson Fury, which I helped them in that camp with. Yeah, I was their technical analyst for that. Derek Chisora was in the venue 3.5 hours before the fight. So you can get everything put out, placed out how you want things to be, yeah? So you have a certain stable of calm before you're going out to that massive storm. There wasn't. And you could see when Daniel Dubois walked to the ring, he looked agitated. He wasn't that same confident kid that we saw walking out in the same Wembley arena to go and fight Anthony Joshua. It was a different entity, totally different. And that's the truth. And there were certain things because things were rushed. And it was because they were stuck in traffic on the way coming to the venue. Imagine that, you're stuck in traffic. The cars that were meant to go and collect him turned up late, right? And there was reasons behind that, you know what I mean?
How'd you know this?
Well, because I know. You mean? Well, come on, I know. You know what I mean? The drivers that were meant to go collect, they came late. The person that was arranging the cars told me this morning. So, well, for things like that, you think to yourself, like, you know, it's kind of sad, because I still don't think he would have beaten Usyk, but I think he would have put in something of a better performance. Where were the body shots? Right? And you know, like when you went through the middle with the body shots, it was called a low blow. But you could go around the sides, and Daniel Dubois is very, very capable of going double left hooks downstairs, and he wasn't. He was loading up on every single shot, like, I'm going to touch him and he's going to go. Reason why? Because you touched Anthony Joshua and he went. But you have to remember, Anthony Joshua has been stopped before. And he's been flawed before. So it's different. You're dealing with a different entity inside of Alexander Usyk. And you are dealing with a generational great.
Obviously, we're talking about what went wrong for Daniel Dubois, but was it not just a case of Alexander Usyk just taking away his assets? Because Dan's known for a really good jab, and I don't think we saw any jabs last night. But was that because of Usyk's footwork and him just parrying his jab away? You know, was it an element of that?
Well, it's not even a case of like how he took away his jab. He took away his jab because he does this Doctor Strange stuff. When he elongates his arm and he feints, he draws your lead. As he draws your lead, and then he went bam with a hard right hand jab. It was a hard jab in the first round. And from then, it seemed to me that Daniel Dubois was demoralized, right? Because you're in with somebody that wasn't showing you respected your power, but he showed you no fear of your power. And that's what happened.
What do you make of the way Usyk was loading up? Because I've never seen him that vicious before. He was loading up with that backhand like he wanted to take him out in round one.
I think the great Roy Jones said it's going to be very difficult for a man to win a fight where you know that you lost to a jab in their previous fight. It was a jab, right? And this is the great legendary Roy Jones, one of the greatest to ever do it. And somewhere in Daniel Dubois' mind is that I've actually lost to this guy, right? And somewhere in Usyk's mind is, I made this guy quit the last time. And that was evident. And that's not me in on slant on Daniel Dubois, because I really do believe that Daniel Dubois can come back. He's young enough to come back, right? I do believe that certain people are going to get P45s tomorrow morning, and I'm going to be real with you, because I said, who else is going to get P45? I believe that Don Charles is no longer going to be his trainer. And I don't believe that. I don't believe that they have the...
just for context, how can that happen? He's just won Trainer of the Year, 4-fight winning streak. Him and Kieran Fowler have obviously guided him to that.
All of that doesn't mean shit.
And he's lost to...
all of that doesn't mean shit.
But he's lost to the final boss twice.
Pardon me?
He's lost to the final boss twice.
Yeah, he's lost to the final boss twice. Yes, he lost to him twice. I'm telling you now that Don Charles, I believe, they won't be in there, because I told you before, when the father wanted to get rid of Don before, and I pleaded with it, and this is factual as well. This is factual. So you can't sue, you can't tell people to take this. This is factual. You know what I mean? I could go for any lie detector test, anything else. I sat in your house and you said, right, you wanted to get rid of Don because you didn't think he was professional enough. And I said, it doesn't work like that. You have to stay with Don Charles because it's going to take 3 or 4 fights before you see the best Daniel Dubois. Then we go 3 or 4 fights, and then what happens? He knocks out AJ. So wasn't I right? Must be right. You know what I mean? Now people could say a lot about me, but nobody can't say that I don't study this game. Nobody can't say that I don't know this game, right? And I'm not talking about nobody. I'm not talking about the internet warriors and all that. No. Talk to people in the game and ask them if I don't know this. I don't know this business. I know this business, bro. I made it my business to know this business. So yeah, I'm just saying. You're saying, how can you say this because he had done this and this and this? I know for a fact, within inside the camp, Don hasn't got the authority that he's meant to have. It's the dad that's got the authority, right? And if the dad was looking at it saying that, he wanted to bring in Robert McCracken, right? Originally, the dad came to me and asked me for the trainer, you know, and I mentioned Don Charles, right? And I said, well, why don't you give it to Don Charles, somebody that could understand Daniel Dubois' cultural identity, right? And I think you asked him that question about, is it because like Don being a man of color? Why? He said no, because Don's African and we're Caribbean. No, but we're still, even though we're Caribbean, we're still African, right? So there's certain things that are embedded inside of us that we understand more so than anybody else. So you went with Don Charles and you got your successes of that time. I'm not knocking that. I'm not knocking anything that Don Charles has done. Don Charles, I'm telling you, he's still my brother, right? But we're going to have disagreements on certain things. We're going to be like, we're brothers. But like I said in the past, Don Charles has been very supportive of me, especially when my mom died. Very supportive. But that doesn't stop me from saying I'm not going to speak the truth. I have to be who I am. Who I am is I have to tell you how it goes. And no, just because you've got all these accolades that's come off of the back, I'm telling you now that you saw so many other guys. It's not just one person that was training Daniel Dubois. You had Kieran in there. You had that other little young brother in there as well. You had quite a few guys who were doing the pads and all that. Don Charles wasn't regularly doing the pads.
Obviously, I don't know. I wasn't there. But what I will say as an outsider looking in, if the dad is running the show, and if he has got numerous trainers, that formula's clearly worked for 4 fights, and he's just gone wrong against the final boss, as I said.
No, because this camp was different to any other camp, right? And how it goes is this is working, but then what happened is this is like your position starts to dwindle. If you're the boss, then be the boss. You say, well, we failed against the final boss. But we saw that inside the build up to going into this fight, it was chaotic. You don't want that chaos when you're going into, you're facing a man that's going to bring you chaos anyway. You don't need that. And that's not me having a go, but that's not me having a go at all, right? And it's not me, I'm not, what's the word? Like, I'm not wallowing in somebody else's demise, right? Because when they were successful, regardless of with the dad, I was actually happy for Daniel Dubois. I was actually happy for Don Charles, right? And in a strange way, I was kind of happy for the old man as well. But it is what it is.
Fascinating. I think the last question I've got for you. Does anybody beat Alexander Usyk from this current crop of heavyweights or cruiserweights that could go up?
No. Right? The only thing that's going to beat Alexander Usyk is Father Time. And I want to know where their game plan was when they went up to go and face Alexander Usyk. Because if their game plan was, he must be an old man now, I can see because he's getting grey around his sides and all the rest of it, that's really dumb. You know what I mean? I want to know what their game plan was. I want to know how many videotapes were they watching of Alexander Usyk. What were they watching how to set up traps? When you were sitting down to say that we're going up against the southpaw, how much shadow boxing was Daniel Dubois doing inside of the mirror? You know what I mean? The intrinsic thing to go and do. Reason why? Because your reflection is going to be a southpaw, right? All of these kind of little nuances you pick up over years, but you pick up over constantly talking to great guys, and it's going to rub off. It's not because you're big and strong what makes you win fights. Because if it was because you're big and strong, the elephant would be the king of the jungle.
Drop another prediction for me. Does Daniel Dubois become a world champion again?
If he wants to, I believe that he can. But he's going to have to make some really drastic changes in there. And like I'm saying to the father, which I thought would be a good thing that dad was in the corner. I'm going to be real with you. I thought if the dad's in the corner, he's got a really good chance of winning that fight.
I've got a question for you because I saw some headlines. I think Chisora might have said it. I don't want to misquote him, but I'm sure I saw some headlines, people suggesting that he quit. In your opinion, did he quit?
No, he didn't.
I'm glad you said that.
Right, he didn't quit. When he went down the first time, I thought that he was going to quit. But he looked over to the corner, and I think his dad must say, "Get up!" Right? But that's what he does. He's responsive to the dad's instructions, right? But no, he didn't quit. He got beat. He got knocked out, man. That was a horrible. The second knockdown, that was a horrible knockdown. And all the credit in the world should be given to Alexander Usyk. And it's been fantastic to know that we have seen one of the all-time greats in heavyweight boxing, and that's what it was. But we also got to be real. I'm not buying into this. Darren Barker said that he could have beaten Lennox Lewis. He said that's what he said yesterday and that's actually sacrilege. You know what I mean? And I love Darren Barker, but that's sacrilege.
That's pretty much it, Spence. Unless you've got anything else to add, thank you for your post-fight input.
Yeah, peace and love. And join myself for the Almadina 313 with the legendary UFC superstar Michael Venom Page. And it's this Friday in Slough. We're doing something with him where he's going to meet young children and stuff like that. So yeah, I'll give you the link. You can throw it on the page. And all the money raised is going to the 313 charity.
And you can get the full details on Spencer's Instagram at Master Knowledge, something or another.
Yeah, Master_Knowledge. Well done. How about that one? Thank you very much, Boxing King Media.
Spencer, thank you very much.
the most powerful trait we have. You need power, speed. Let your imagination do the rest.
Undisputed, the Mexican Monster Pack out now.